you who give as little as $1 a month to make this amazing content. So this week's episode, this month's episode actually, we are going to discuss our experience playing through Super Metroid, originally put out on the Super Nintendo 4, that we've been playing it on our 3DS and on our Wii U. Actually, Zach, we're just going to redo this all over.
Right on.
We're in new track.
Okay, stop, delete that, and okay, you're good.
Hey guys, this episode of Retro Rewind is brought to you by the amazing Patreon supporters over at patreon.com/NintendoDads. It's only because of your guys' patronage that we are able to actually do this Retro Rewind. And this game, Super Metroid, was selected by you, the patron. So if you want to select the games that we're going to play, head over to patreon.com/NintendoDads, and for as little as $1 a month, you get to vote. On this episode, we are going to discuss our experiences. So, Zach, as always, cue the music.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Retro Rewind, brought to you by Nintendo Dads over at patreon.com/NintendoDads. I sound so much more like a weird radio announcer tonight. We've already recorded the original episode for this week, and we are now going straight into Retro Rewind. And my voice is totally shot. I've lost the top half of my range for some reason. So you're going to experience the monotone and sultry husky voice. I don't know. Anyway, speaking of sultry and husky, Justin Masson, what's going on, man?
Wow, that's hurtful. That's so hurtful. I mean, it's nice to know that you finally, going into puberty and you're getting hair in special places. So welcome to the club there, Zach.
Yeah, I don't know. It's something else. Of course, joining us as well is Jesse Waldack from VGTribune.com. What's going on, Jesse? Yeah, I don't know. That
kind of hurt. Ouch. I'll try not to do that again today.
Yeah, I'm sitting here turning my mic all the way down. I don't have a cough switch, but I just I got the dial. I turn it all the way down, and then I cough, and then I turn it all the way back up. Anyway, right on. So Super Metroid, Super Nintendo Chalmers. Right, you get that reference. So basically, we are talking all about Super Metroid today, which is awesome. I didn't get to play as much of it this month as I would have liked. However, I have played quite a bit of this game in the past, so it's a good time. I have to say, kind of going into this, it is one of the Metroid franchise is one of my favorite Nintendo franchises. Justin, what about let's just go around the horn real quick. What is everybody's thoughts about the Metroid series in general?
Yeah, I really, really enjoy the Metroid series. And as a kid growing up with a Super Nintendo, this is one of those games that I remember distinctly having. And I remember, getting it at a farmer's market, kind of cheap, and, picking it up because the box art looked cool and other friends had it. So I was like, oh, this is a really cool game. And sitting down and just sinking hours and hours into this game. I had no experience playing Metroid prior to playing Super Metroid. And I think that's something I'd be interested to hear about your guys' experience with it. But it really felt like the Metroid series began to become a staple in the Nintendo franchise and the Nintendo world at the beginning of Super Metroid. This is kind of where it found its own, although we do know that Metroid and Metroid 2 were on the Super Nintendo. But I really, really enjoy the Metroid series, and I think, it's had some bumps and ups and downs over the last, probably decade. But I think when you go back to playing this game, Super Metroid for the SNES, it just polishes you back to why you love this franchise, because it does so many things right, and it's just such a tight, fantastic game to play. So I really love it.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Jesse?
Yeah, I did play the original Metroid back, when it was new on the NES, and of course, I needed to. I I had the I forget what it was called, but pretty much when Nintendo Power first got to start, there was the Nintendo Fun Club. That pretty much anyone who was a subscriber to that before Nintendo Power got this book, it was like good 3/4 of an inch thick. This of a bunch of maps. And the only reason why I was able to get through that game was because I had the book of maps to know where I was needing to go. And I never played Metroid 2. So when the Super Metroid came out, I remember liking the original, and so I picked it up, and I remember playing the hell out of it. I don't know how many times I played through it, though I don't think I ever got to the point where I could beat it in under 3 hours. But I did get to the point where I knew where almost everything was without needing a map. Which is kind of still one of the downsides of that game is you still kind of need an external map or an external walkthrough to know.
Yeah.
It doesn't lead you to where you need to go like other future games do. So it's really easy to get lost. And I think I know I've blown at least 2 hours just wandering around lost trying to figure out what I need to do next. I still managed to beat it in about 6 hours, 6.5 hours. So got really close. I could have gotten to the 3 hour mark if I knew what I was doing.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because, like, compared to Metroid and Metroid 2, which was on the Game Boy, I feel like they made a lot of improvements as far as like the gameplay and the feel of the game. Like
I like the added ability where you can have fire in 45-degree increments instead of only
with the shoulder buttons, right? Yeah, that was awesome. I agree, and it just seems like I think they totally just went for it with the new color palette of the Super Nintendo as well. The visuals in that game were just incredible, and I really, really am impressed with their ability to create this atmosphere and this feeling like you are alone on this alien world, and that's something that Nintendo is constantly creating in the Metroid games, and I think that this game may be the pinnacle of when they did that really, really well. Like going on later, of course. So in the Metroid franchise, you've got Metroid, and then Metroid 2, Return of Samus, which is the Game Boy game, and then Super Metroid, which is this one, and then chronologically. We got Metroid Fusion, and then Metroid Zero Mission, which is a remake of the original Metroid. And honestly, I feel like Super Metroid, while I think the later games, like you were saying, Jesse, the sort of navigation piece to it, I think was better in Fusion and Zero Mission. As far as I don't mind when they hold my hand and tell me where to go. Like, I'm okay with that. I think it was, a lot of times when they do that in the later games, they tell you where you need to go, but how you get there is a lot of the time in some like sort of hidden passage that you've got to find anyways. But yeah, so
they don't handhold you to this point, which I do like.
Right, but
tell me
like
where I need to go, but don't tell me how to get there.
Yeah, so the navigation I think is pretty good in the later ones, but this game may be the pinnacle of the environment, the sort of atmosphere that they have there. And later on, even in the Metroid Prime games, I think they do a lot with the sound design and the music and the graphics as well, but it never really stands out as such an important backbone of the game as it did in Super Metroid. So I don't know. So Justin, you played it, and like you guys both had this game growing up. I didn't. In fact, I didn't really know about Metroid until I don't even know if he listens to the show. Probably not. But when I moved out, after high school, I moved out with a couple of guys, and we all lived together. And my roommate had a Super Nintendo. His name was Noah, and he was like, "No, this is literally the best game that has ever been made." And like he had like a Super Nintendo and would play it. And this was in like 2003, so it's not like, he was kind of like a retro hipster sort of type, which was pretty hilarious. But he played the crap out of this game, and I would just sit and watch him. And I remember this was around the time that Metroid Fusion came out, and he convinced me, like I was already kind of on the fence, but he kind of pushed me over the edge to buying a GameCube and I can't remember if he bought the Game Boy player or I bought the Game Boy player, but it was so he could play Metroid Fusion on the TV.
Right.
I like tons of, like just playing that game like crazy. Just the three of us in that house. It was a lot of fun. So I still have fond memories of that time. It was kind of a crazy time in my life right after high school, just kind of living with some friends and stuff. But it was a good time. I really it was pretty awesome. So, and other than that, I mean, that was the GBA era, and so I was kind of introduced to the Metroid series at that time too. So like Metroid Fusion, Super Metroid, all kind of at once, and Metroid Zero Mission a year or two later. So yeah, right on. So next, sorry.
I think it's interesting because I really think that when you evaluate Metroid in kind of the larger scheme of Nintendo franchises, I don't think it's like we think of it as like one of the A franchises or A minus franchises for Nintendo. Like it's a really big franchise for them. But when you actually look at the frequency of the Metroid series throughout the years, it's not as frequent as I think that people would want it to be, right? It's not as like Mario is every week there's a new Mario game, it seems like. But there's really this clamoring for Metroid, and I really think it was the success. I mean, it was critically acclaimed and received those high marks and success for Super Metroid that really kind of began to franchise and firm it up as part of their staples in their organization. But to your point, I mean, like this was released in 1994. There was no Super Metroid, 2 for the Super Nintendo, but it was released in 1994. We don't get another Metroid game in the Metroid genre or in the Metroid world until actually 2002 with Metroid Fusion and Metroid Prime. So almost 10 years later, they come back to Metroid again. It was completely missed in the N64 era, and again, only coming up in the handheld and then obviously into the GameCube.
Have you ever seen any of the Metroid 64 things, the failed Metroid game from Metroid 64?
No.
Apparently they tried to make one. Here we go, Metroid 64 on Wikitroid. Wow, that's a pretty clever name. Here we go. So it says Metroid 64 was the supposed title for a Metroid game that was to be released for the Nintendo 64. After Super Metroid, many fans were eagerly awaiting a sequel. Yep. It was supposedly slated for the Nintendo 64, but while the game was referenced several times, it never entered production. Where are we here? This is an interview with Yoshio Sakamoto. I was actually thinking this is with Sakamoto. He says, or the games, which is the people interviewing, says this apprehension over 3D gaming is that the reason that there was never a Metroid 64. Sakamoto says, I was actually thinking about the possibility of making a Metroid game for N64, but I felt I shouldn't be the one making the game. When I held the N64 controller in my hands, I just couldn't imagine how it could be used to move Samus around. So for me, it was just too early to personally make a 3D Metroid at that time. Also, I know this isn't a direct answer to your question, but Nintendo at that time approached another company and asked them if they would make a Nintendo 64 game version of Metroid, and their response was that no, they could not. They turned it down, saying that unfortunately they didn't have the confidence to create an N64 Metroid game that could compare favorably with Super Metroid. That's something I take as a compliment to what we achieved with Super Metroid. Can you say what company that was? Ask, and then they say, no, I can't. So
I guess that's kind of interesting, right? Like, I mean, it was such a, when I think of the Super Nintendo era and games that you play, like there are games that come up instantly, right? So Super Mario World, Super Metroid, Donkey Kong, right? Like those are kind of like what I feel are like the pillars of the SNES generation. I mean, you can even throw Earthworm Jim in there as well, but I mean, it feels like those, maybe even F-Zero, like it feels like they're just like, if you have a collection, those games have to be in there. But I think that, I mean, that's a great statement of saying, like, Super Metroid was such a tight game, such a well-designed game, such a, you talk about the music, you talk about the isolation, right? You feel that sense of isolation, that exploration. You feel kind of worry and concern at times, and frustration and difficulty, and there's obviously inspiration also taken from, the Alien franchise.
Yeah.
Right? Which would have been like 1994, early 90s. And it was like you feel like there's a lot of just like sci-fi influences kind of connecting into it. Even Blade Runner in certain parts of it feels like there's some connective tissue there. And it really is just almost a perfect in the 90s, I guess the way I'm going to put it. But perfect in the 90s.
90s, yeah.
Yeah, kind of game that even now, I mean, look at it. We are pulling this back almost 25 years later, and we're playing. We're like, yeah, or at least 20 years later, we're like, yeah, it still holds up. There isn't it doesn't feel like it's flawed. Doesn't feel like there's something completely wrong with it. I just think it's just so fundamental. But I do like the fact that they said, like, hey, the SNES was so good that we didn't want to do an N64 one that we couldn't do half as well. So that's what creates the 8-year gap, right? Between products is the game is so good. Like if the game is so good and you want to do a sequel and then it ends up being crap, you're in trouble.
Yeah. Right on. Agreed. I have a list here. Jesse, you've played this game probably more than anybody, or maybe Justin, maybe both of you. I don't know. Here I'm gonna play a song, and you tell me what area it's from. Can we do that? Do you think you could, who is it? Either
be able to.
I don't even know the names of the areas without looking at a map. So
let's see if this works.
Let's see what we got.
The music in this game, man.
I don't know.
Okay, that's short loop.
Yeah, let's try a different one. This is from the same area. Yeah.
I played most of the game on an airplane, so I did.
Recognize the music though.
Didn't get a chance to listen to much of the music.
I'll listen to it though. Just let it wash over you. That is Brinstar, by the way. How about this one? Maybe this. No, that's an ad. Thanks. Come on. Boo. Try that again.
I like that one.
Yeah. Oh, the sound.
That's the beginning.
Yeah, this is the beginning. Oh, I could seriously just listen to this music for the next 45 minutes, and then we'd call it a show.
Well, interestingly enough, like they actually did create an album.
They did.
An album was actually released called Super Metroid Sounds in Action, which was released on actually June 22nd in 1994, which is basically the soundtrack. It contained 38 tracks and covers and it was about an hour long, and it actually included the original music composed for Metroid as well. So,
wow. Here we go.
Yeah, it's
mini boss confrontation here. Oh, maybe not. The fact that this was the music in this boss fight, you know which one it is, right? Like the weird, like floating.
The flower thing.
The flower thing. It's super creepy. It's so creepy. It's just like, oh, I love it. I love it. Okay, here, last one.
I like that one.
That I feel that one needs to be on my soundboard. Actually,
That needs to be your ringtone for like when someone calls you.
oh, that'd be awesome. Oh my gosh,
Like
dude,
when I call you, that should be your ringtone.
that'd be amazing. I would love that. Yes. I may just.
You're gonna
It's
work on that.
probably better to just pay the $1 to get the ringtone instead of do all the work. But anyway, yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Jesse.
Yeah, my ringtone is currently Dig Dug.
Nice. I like it.
You know, it's the I was kind of just thinking about more and more about this game and how it again the music is just the music helps create that isolation, right? And this is why soundtracks to games are so important in the musical work, the VO work, all of those. Like, it's not just gameplay, and gameplay is important, story is important, but it's all those pieces that come together to create a really sound game, and that's what this game really does. Is like it does so many things right.
Yeah.
You get in an area and you get stuck and you're like, and it provides you the game design breadcrumbs, right? Like, you walk into a room, you look around and there's nothing like there's nothing there. It's a closed room. There's a couple enemies, maybe you're like, there's something in here I have to do, right? You're looking for that one block, that one rock that looks out of place, or you're shooting up and, like those kind of things. It's so well done that very, very rarely did I feel like I had to I need to go to a map and look for where I am. And it also does those great tie-ins where you're going through a stage, and I need a special weapon I need the freeze ray or whatever it is to get through this. You kind of walk in, you realize you don't have that. Now you've got to go explore, find that, and remember that, by the way, I have to come back to this spot to get this freeze ray.
Yeah.
So it does lovely layering of games, right?
Yeah.
I think the other thing that we really have to take into consideration, the importance of this game, is, this game is referenced in, and especially Super Metroid, I think, is what created the foundational idea of Metroidvania, the genre itself, right? And that's the combination of, again, Castlevania and Super Metroid contained together to kind of create this 2D platform. But there's so many games nowadays that were like, oh, it's a Metroidvania style, right? I mean, it has its own genre unto which was created and melded, and no other games really have that. Like, I don't hear it's a Mario pickin' game, right? Like, you don't hear that. It's a combination. I think that's important when you put in consideration how this game was created and the importance it has in the entire Super Metro or Super Nintendo, and even the long-term Nintendo franchise.
Yeah.
I also, sorry, I'm kind of ranting here. I also think it's really important to think that in 1994, right, when video games are kind of it's hitting its traction, Nintendo and Sega are hot on its heels, throwing punches. Exclusivity deals are trying to be signed. Sega's trying to basically undercut Nintendo, trying to be this bigger thing. Nintendo, Samus is a female protagonist, right? Where in that genre, in that time, 1994, video games were boy things. Do you know what I mean? Like, that was that wasn't something that girls played with. It was such a strike.
Back to the original game, 1986.
Yeah, no, exactly right. And you go back to 1986, and they didn't change that. She is still a bounty hunter, right? She continues to be that individual that I think is, and again, this is a great example of just strong empowerment of females and women in this area, and in this genre, and at no point, or in a video game, and at no point is everyone's like, oh, I'm not going to play Super Metroid because she's a girl, right? And, well, she's kicking ass, right? Trying to take down Ridley, and again, here's another great part. She's not sexualized.
Right.
Right. She again, I think that's another unless you actually even know that it is a woman, it isn't until other parts in the game it
was hidden in the original manual. They wanted it to be a surprise, and so they actually said he in the manual.
Yeah.
Right, which is crazy.
like I think that is and I mean, no one's coughing at the fact that it's a woman, right? Like, and I don't think they should be, right? Like, no, before you start sending your hate mail to me, my point here is that 1994, when everything is over masculinated, right? So you've got Mortal Kombat coming out of that point, right? Sorry,
I was gonna say you got Contra Hardcore,
right? You've got these like over sexualized images, right? And I think of even like Mortal Kombat. Your female representation are scantily clad women, right, trying to fight. And you flip over to Nintendo, and you have got a female protagonist in a space armor suit kicking serious ass, right? So I think I think that's another one of the reasons why I love this game. And again, at no point is it like, oh well, it's a woman, so we're gonna over sexualize it or downplay it. It's a fantastic in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. Go ahead. I was just kind of looking at like, so we've had, if you look at the timeline, we've kind of had this segmented timeline for a while where it's Metroid, like the original 4 Metroid games, Metroid 2, Super Metroid, and Metroid Fusion. And that's kind of like the span of the 4 games. And then we've also got the Prime series, which is kind of what, Jesse, it's like prequels, kind of?
I think, they take place before the original game.
Yeah, and then we've got, where does Other M fall? Do we know? Is it like kind of...
Other M, well, see, Fusion talks about her time with Adam as it was in the past.
Right.
And
does it kind of go like Metroid?
Which makes it sound like he's already been dead. So Other M, you learn about their past, but you still interact with him during the game. So that must have happened before Fusion.
Right.
I'm not sure where it fits in with Prime though.
Yeah. Maybe it goes like Prime, then Zero, or then Other M, then Zero Mission, and then the rest or something. I don't know.
I'll try to look it up.
Yeah, but anyway, what sort of other games, like I know we've got Federation Force coming out this year, but is there anything else, like if we were to make a new 2D platformer Metroid game, what is there that we would like to see made sure is like, this is the hallmark, this is like the defining characteristic of a Metroid game, and then what would we add to it? Justin, what do you think? What are things that are absolutely essential in this?
I think if there's essential components I would put to it, I would think the morphing suits and the weapon upgrades, right? That I require the ice beam to be able to complete this level,
right?
Like I think those are staples of the Metroid series, right? I need to build on my suit to build on these abilities, grappling hooks, those kind of things. So I think that would be a staple for me. What else do I think?
Would you want, like, here's a question. Would you want it to be, because a lot of times the exploration is kind of like it's rainy or it's underground. Like, is that something that needs to persist, or can that, because like I'm thinking of specifically like Metroid Prime 3, where there's like it's like there are parts in that game that are almost like BioShock Infinite.
Yeah, you're in the clouds, right? You're in the
clouds and stuff like that, and it's still cool, but it almost, like, I think that game in particular was kind of criticized for kind of losing that darker, more isolated feeling. Like that. How essential is that? Do you think that that's something that
I think that's critically essential, right? I think that you need to feel isolated. You need, like, I use a reference as Aliens, right? Like at any time during this game, I felt like something could jump out at me, right? Yeah. And I think you need that isolation. I know what you mean by that kind of like Cloud City, BioShock kind of look that it had, and I don't think the isolation felt as heavy there. But I'd want to see like I was almost thinking like a rain, like a dark at night, almost like in a rainforesty kind of situation, right? Maybe you pop out of a cave, and it's like you don't really, you kind of, you don't know where you are. It's both green and lush, but also that lush, that understanding of life also means there's probably a lot of danger in that as well. And then kind of like rolling into like some caves and kind of back and forth and almost, yeah, kind of very much that exploration. I think the dark caves. I think the isolation of space also.
Yeah, it sounds like the jungle that is so thick that it blocks out the sun. Like,
yeah.
Is that? Yeah, for sure. Sorry, you're saying space.
Yeah, I think the isolation of space is also kind of a very important part. Important part to it as well, and I think that kind of again follows up with the whole idea of the alien theme that it has. I also think the relationship between Samus and kind of the Metroids, right, and the impact, like a little bit more depth to it, I think would probably not be a bad idea. And I think they tried to do that with Other M, right? I just don't think they hit the mark the same way.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Now, in relation to actual like story chronology, there is actually a little bit of a story chronology, and I'm just kind of looking at Wikipedia for this. The chronology goes Metroid, Zero Mission, Metroid Prime, Hunters, Echoes, Corruption, Return of Samus, Super Metroid, Other M, and then Fusion.
You found the same page that I found.
Yeah.
And then, or at least the page that I found also says that there's a 2-part manga that was published in Japan that outlines her earlier days and her training with the Chozo, leading up into the Zero Mission.
Yeah.
Right. Like in theory, Metroid is the first early Halo. Right? Yeah. Like that's what this game is. Halo is kind of it's just bro Metroid, right? And I think that's sometimes probably like bro dude Metroid. And I think that's probably one of the things that kind of makes me upset because I think that I'd love to see Nintendo take almost a really dirty, gritty, dark approach to the Metroid series in that vein. Like first person shooter kind of style. They've done it, yes, in the Corruption series, but just like really all in it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. By the way, here's the intro music to Metroid Prime. This one here, I don't know. You'll probably recognize this. Just the weird crackling in this alone. Oh, yeah. You know, it's interesting, like, thinking about the Metroid Prime games. All right, I'll fade that out. The Metroid Prime games, actually, I think I've played more. Well, obviously, I've played more of them. They're much longer games. But I loved I've played the first Metroid Prime game and the 1 and 3. I haven't played 2 yet, although I have the trilogy collection on Wii U. So, man, like it's interesting when they made that jump to 3D. It was amazing how well that transition happened, I guess. You know, and how they were able to take that, you know, kind of like what you were saying, Justin, where there's that exploration and the isolation there. And yet it's perfectly translated into 3D. I think it was really, really impressive. So yeah, anyway, I just found that while I was searching for music, and it made me happy inside. I don't know.
And I think this is the thing. Like, I would be so happy if Nintendo said to us tomorrow, like, hey, by the way, we've made Super Metroid 2. And it's literally like literally a throwback to this style, right? And I mean, I haven't played Axiom Verge, but that's from looking at Axiom Verge, that's what it reminds me of.
Yeah,
like it should be Super Metroid 2, And I think that it's kind of like, you don't need to, like, yeah, sure, I'd love I just said a couple moments ago, a first-person gritty Halo version, right? But, like, I'd also just be okay with, like, Metroid, Super Metroid 2. Like, tell me more about that. I want for Nintendo to spend time with this franchise and really develop it and kind of do what's best for it. Now, we also know that Nintendo wants to try and make sure everything hits out the park, right? And I think that's why we saw some delays, and that's why we haven't seen Metroid on Wii U either.
On Justification Force, is that what you're? Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I think as well. I think that is why so many people were disappointed when Federation Force was announced, because you'd think what they, like if you were to ask the fans, what do you want? It's, I want a new really awesome Metroid game on Wii U. I want a 3D Metroid game on Wii U, and I want a 2D Metroid game on 3DS. Right? Like, do literally like new Super Metroid, right? Like that, I think, is what people wanted when a new 3DS Metroid game was announced. Like, take that awesome 3D graphics that you've got, the new Super Mario Brothers, the Link Between Worlds treatment, and just give me a new 2D Metroid game. I would love that. And I'm interested with this Axiom Verge thing. It'll be interesting to see that game. I kind of joked about picking it up on Vita, but I feel like I'm actually more likely to play it on Vita than I am on Wii U. So
yeah, that's fair. Maybe
I will pick it up there. I don't know. We'll see.
It was actually funny kind of going through some of the other comments I saw here as well, is that at one point Marty Sleva from IGN actually mentions that the Swapper, a puzzle platformer game developed by Facepalm, is the closest thing to the Super Metroid atmosphere that I've ever played. And again, this goes back to that just feeling of isolation and all the Foley work that you're hearing, the sounds, and it's just so good.
Fun, dude. I actually have played some of that game now, and it's pretty awesome. I really like Swapper.
Pretty challenging. As we've been kind of like waxing on about it, is there anything that kind of like frustrated you about the game, or I don't know, challenged you?
I got stuck. I have always gotten stuck. Super Metroid specifically, there's the one ability that you have to know how to do, where it's like run and then jump straight up to do the rocket jump or whatever it is to get out of the pit. I don't know if I'm explaining myself very well.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Do the speed jump and then the super boost jump up. Maybe that was easier to pull off on Super Nintendo, but I don't know if it's like the Wii U emulation, but I gave up. That's where I'm. That's where I continue to be in that game.
Pretty much the way that works is after when you do your run, and then as soon as you stop running, you push down. Then you can walk around a little bit to position your x-axis while you're still glowing for about 5 or 10 seconds. Then you can hit your jump button, and then you'll shoot up.
Oh, see, they never explained that.
No.
Did they explain that?
No.
Not really. The only explanation is watching the animals in the background perform.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I got stuck on that. That was really, really frustrating because I tried that for a long time, and then I gave up.
And
so
there was areas I tried to do it, thinking like to get a weird missile that it says, by using the power bomb and the X-ray scope. It says the only way up here is by using the speed boost ability. And
right.
The fact that they're stacked vertically under it means you have to come up from under, but I didn't know where on the bottom to position myself to shoot myself up. So that one, some of those I never did collect.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. What about you, Justin?
That damn wall jump.
Is this
that one brought me problems too near the end.
Oh,
yeah,
well, because you have to like push the button the opposite way that any other game does, right?
Yeah, it's like backwards of a Mario wall jump.
I got stuck in an area where I think we're very close to the same area. You have to kind of jump over this pit of spikes, and then you hit a wall. You have to kind of like wall jump out and then spin yourself back in to be able to land on the platform to kind of open up the door to go through. And I could not do it. Like I tried, I practiced well, these jumps, and that was really really frustrating for me. Like it actually became an obstacle that I could not complete the game in.
And that doesn't feel very good.
No.
I'm just gonna put that out there. Is that I feel like a lot of Metroid games get to that point. Like that's my experience with a lot of Metroid games. Is there's a wall where there's just something that you just hit something and you're like, screw this game, I'm done. I've had that experience with more than one Metroid game actually. The Metroid Fusion, I think, had
the ability that I wanted in this game, because it existed in Zero Mission, maybe also Fusion, was the ability to grab onto the edge of a wall.
Yeah.
Climb up and curl into the ball and to reach that.
Right.
Yeah, because that was one part where I missed the ball. I forget what they call it, but the ability to jump in the ball form.
Oh,
so I played half the game without it. I got to the point when I really needed it to get the missiles in that area. And I had to backtrack to find it and then come back. So the only way to get to it is to do that jump where before I could, the other games I could have clung onto the wall then curled up.
Right.
But the one part of the game that frustrated me was just before the space jump. You had to do, this expertly timed trapeze with the magna beam.
Oh yeah.
And you literally had to flip yourself around and to catch the
it's like Tarzan or something, right? Like
yeah.
Where you had to, or like Spider-Man or something.
I think that took me half an hour to do that one screen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's such a great, like, it's so frustrating, but at the same time, I almost I complain about the fact where you get to a point where you just can't beat it, but it seems like after a while, like I have had that happen to me, and then I'll come back and I'll actually pull it off, and that feels so good, right? Like where you're like, yes, I got it, and so I almost don't even want them to I still want that to be there. It's just a matter of mastery, I guess.
Well, and I think the other thing that it does for you is it actually makes you question whether you're in the right spot or the wrong spot. Right, yeah, because it does such a good job of like, hey, if I walk in here and I can't do something, it's because I don't have the right tool or the right kit to be able to complete the task. So therefore, do I not have the right tool or kit in this case also to complete this task? So it kind of makes you re-question whether you're doing it right or wrong. And I find that's kind of a bit of a challenge. I'll be honest, I had to go onto YouTube a couple times and be like, okay, am I in the right spot based on where I am in my difficulty? And like, oh, okay, I am. I'm gonna watch how somebody else does this. Oh, I'm screwed.
As I said, this definitely is a game that you kind of need a walkthrough.
Yeah.
But the problem is there isn't I haven't seen a well-written walkthrough.
Yeah.
The only ones I see is like a wall of text.
And
I'm somewhere in here, but it takes me a while just to find where I'm at.
Yeah, or you're just finding speed runs, right? Because this game is notorious for its speed runs as well.
Right.
Because it has different. Because one of the reasons, for those of you that are, not knowing, for the speed runs, if you finish at a specific time, there's actually different endings you get with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's your like not sexualized.
Yeah, I know, right? After I said that, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, at that point they're like, hey, yeah, she's a girl.
They really make you earn it, though.
Yeah, they do. And not since Tomb Raider 2 has I don't know. Actually, no, I think that was an urban legend. The Tomb Raider 2 shower scene. But anyway, yeah, I don't know where that came from. Right on. So let's get into our email here.
Sure, I've got that here available for you.
Sure.
This is from good friend of the show, Brian Welch. Greetings, Dad. Super Metroid holds a special place in my gaming heart. As a kid, at a time when I only got a few games a year, Super Metroid was perfect because it literally gave me months of playtime as I explored the world. The internet didn't exist and I didn't own a strategy guide. For me, the game taps into the explorer or adventure that lives inside of us all, especially as a child. I try to replay it every few years, and it's amazing. It's amazing on how you can return to a game and just fall back into the routine. It's great. It's definitely my top 5 games of all time. Having said that, as an adult, while I still tremendously love and respect Super Metroid, I actually think that Zero Mission may be the best Metroid game. Can't wait to hear your thoughts. Keep up the great work, and as Zach says, seriously, you guys are the best. Stay fresh, Brian Welch.
Oh, Brian. No, you're the best, Brian Welch.
And you stay fresh.
And your beard is the best.
He has a great beard.
Uh,
Powerful beard.
It is a power beard. Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with this Zero Mission statement.
Yeah.
So
I waited so long to get that Zero Mission to be released in North America.
Yeah.
Japan had it 2 years ago. Europe got it over a year ago, and then we finally get it like in January.
What platform is Zero Mission on?
GBA.
No, but I mean, can I get it on?
It's on Wii U Virtual Console.
Oh, it's on 3DS.
Not 3DS.
It's garbage.
Fusion was available on 3DS if you were on the Ambassador program. Otherwise, that's only available on Wii U.
Garbage.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's pretty awesome. I've actually been playing it a little bit. I was playing it earlier today on my GBA, on the actual my GBA SP right here. So
I'm thinking about going back and playing Other M again.
You check that out right here. I don't know if you can see it, Justin. Where is it?
I can. That's pretty sweet. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing like a GBA sound cart.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. I like that Brian says he goes back and plays it, quite regularly. And he is right. Like it feels familiar, right?
Yeah.
Like I haven't played this game for quite a while, but going back, I was like, yeah, like these all ring a bell, and I felt like I was zipping through it. I was like, man, why am I getting so far so fast in this game? And I was like, it's because it's all like muscle memory. I've played this before. I remember this level. I remember it's this door. So you're kind of quicker to get through it as well.
Yeah.
This is another example of a game that I do have it on my 3DS, but this is a game that once it was available on the Wii U, and obviously we weren't even doing the podcast at that point, I instantly picked it up because it's like just such a classic game that way. I think there are games in those, Super Mario World, classic, right?
Yep.
Like, yeah, okay, no matter what, you kind of got to have that in your collection. I would just love to not have to pay for it 5 more times in my life.
Seriously.
I'm looking at you on that one, Nintendo.
Jeez.
So
yeah. No, I totally agree. It's I don't know, it's just one of those ones. I really just want another Metroid game. Like as excited as I am for Federation Force, we've said this on the show a bunch. I am open-minded for Federation Force. I'm willing to try it out, but it is not the Metroid game I'm looking for. Like it's just that simple.
Fair.
So
there are 2 things that I'd like to see happen at some point. I'd like to see Metroid 2 remade.
yeah, dude, that'd be awesome.
And then, the 2 manga set of the early.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see that done, whether it be done in a game or in a series of shorts or in an hour-long animated movie. I don't care.
That'd be cool.
Just some, because I've always been interested in knowing more about the mythology of the Chozo.
Mm-hmm.
I know it exists, but I just never have gone out to try to read the manga. I don't know if there is an English translation to it or not.
Yeah, I don't know. I see that this manga is a new thing for me. I didn't know that there was even a manga. Manga. Yeah. Here we go.
And my Firefox just crashed.
Well, with that note,
Because it was that
Uh,
Wikia page I had up had crap running in the side, and that finally just took it down.
That'll do it. Right on. Well, thank you to Brian Welch for giving us your awesome stuff, your awesome information there about and memories. I think that's awesome, and that's what Retro Rewind is all about: is reliving our memories. And I guess kind of as a wrap up, Justin, we talk a lot on this show about introducing our children to games we enjoyed in our childhood. How do you? This seems like a little bit of a different one for like, especially for you.
Mm-hmm.
Your daughters are very much into like the colorful, bright, happy games. Is this something It is a female protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What do you think? Like, what are your thoughts on Super Metroid with your daughters?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to introduce them to it. I think you're right. It's probably not in their wheelhouse yet, but it might come into their wheelhouse eventually. As they get a little bit older. I also think the gameplay can sometimes be a little bit challenging and sticky. And I do obviously think the soundtrack, the feeling of isolation, loneliness, is probably not what I want them to be feeling as playing a game necessarily at this level. But I would love for them to maybe sit down when they're in their early, just after 10 or 11, 12, and then start like, hey, let's try this game and see what their thoughts are, and then like have that reveal at the end that it's a woman, like not tell them that Samus is a woman, and then kind of see what their thoughts are with that as well. So I think that'd be very cool. This is a great example of, again, I mean, we don't know in a couple of years from now, there may be a Metroid game that Nintendo puts out that I'm playing in front of the kids. The kids are like, oh, that's really cool. What's that game? Oh, it's Metroid. Oh, like, oh, do you want to try the, another one from back in a day? And, because there's sometimes those connective tissues, right? I mentioned that before, of like playing a new school game may introduce them to an old school genre of the game. So, but yeah, you are right. Like this doesn't feel like a game this feels like it's more of like daddy's game right now, but hopefully I want you to play soon.
Yeah. Agreed.
Again, this is just a game that's from a historical perspective is very important in the Nintendo life cycle.
Yeah. And I think I do like the fact that it kind of challenges the sort of cookie cutter gender role stuff sort of thing, right? Where it's like, no, this is a bad female hero, and girls can be awesome heroes too. And for that I really do like it. In fact, that's something that I really, really enjoy about I'm gonna talk about it again, but about Overwatch too, right? Where they've been doing that a lot, and my daughter's like running around like I'm Tracer and like running around and like shooting guns and stuff. This is really funny, but I remember growing up and like Samus was the exception back then, right? And now it's really awesome to be able to live in and raise daughters in a time where that's the norm, right? Where it's becoming more and more of the norm to have this all be exciting and awesome.
Well, I mean, just to kind of take one step back. I mean, actually, Zach, I'm even looking at your board right behind you. You've got all your posters, and there's right there is your Samus poster with or Metroid poster with Samus right beside her, right? But I mean, it's kind of speaking of like the female protagonist. Last year, biggest game on the entire Nintendo platform, Splatoon, right? And you can play as an Inkling boy or an Inkling girl, doesn't matter, right? And you're doing the exact same thing. And I think it's just Metroid is so important for, I think, Nintendo from a design perspective, from a gaming perspective, and I think from this kind of protagonist area, which I think solidified Samus's role in the Nintendo family as a character that's like, when you think Nintendo, you think Metroid, you think Samus. There's not a question if she's going to be in the next Smash Brothers. Of course she is. She's going to be in there just like Mario or Link is going to be in there, right? So she's part of that royalty, if you would. So I think it's very important, and I think that they set the tone for what they expected.
Trying to think of back in the '90s, what other examples, for girls in an action type of role. And I couldn't think of anything in terms of video games. The only thing else I could think of was maybe like the early seasons of Power Rangers.
Yeah, and like, well, I mean, like, even it's not for kids at all, but even, you know, like Samus was directly inspired by Ridley from Alien, the original Alien in 1979.
Right, which is why I didn't go there, because that's not, you know,
right, because it's not a kid thing. But I mean, there's obviously.
I was trying to think of something that kids would have.
Yeah, you're right. Though. I don't really.
Yeah,
so
really, that's it.
We got Princess
so
Peach locked in a castle.
Yeah, so obviously that's
really action packed.
So obviously that reference to aliens and Ridley and the connection is the naming of the enemy as well.
Yeah, that's where that name came from. Well, at least I assume that's where it came from. I don't know.
It'll make logical sense.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on.
Cool.
Very cool. Well, gentlemen, I think that about wraps it up. What do you think?
Yeah.
That's another.
I think it was great.
Rewind.
Yeah. Thank you guys for Patreon supporters for selecting it. Awesome game to select. Hopefully you guys enjoyed playing along with it as well.
Yeah. So I guess with that we can announce next month's game, and it was a close one this month.
It was
really close. It came down to a very close competition between Castlevania and Punch-Out, and Punch-Out just barely eked it out. And so next month, for June, our Retro Rewind game is Punch-Out for the NES.
Get your short shorts ready, folks.
Yeah, get your short shorts and your pink hoodie ready. Yeah. And so that is available on, I think it's on the 3DS and the Wii U, right?
It is. I just downloaded it on my 3DS.
Yeah, I'm probably going to download it on my 3DS if I haven't already. That game, man, I'm excited. I'm really excited for that game. And of course, if you guys aren't if you guys are patrons, you can head over to patreon.com/NintendoDads. And have we posted the Samus art from Adam yet?
We haven't posted that yet because we're waiting for our video from our friend Cass, because we're going to post them all. But we have got Samus art from Adam that we're going to... Your Patreon supporter, you get it. This is awesome stuff. We love giving you.
Pretty awesome stuff. It's going to be pretty cool. So thank you to Adam as well from Mega Dads for making that for us. And he's continuing to to pump out all sorts of awesome art for us for the entire Retro Rewind series. So thank you, Adam, for that. As well, by now you're hearing some awesome music from ocremix.org. Thank you to them for music throughout the show. And as well, if you guys want to follow us on all the social medias, all of them, go over to Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram at Nintendo Dads. You can follow us every week, every night, every Wednesday night at 9 o'clock Mountain Time over at youtube.com/c/Nintendo-Dads/live. And you can call and leave us a voicemail, 929-25-NDADS. That's 929-256-3237. And of course, if you want to change the world, go over to iTunes, leave us a 5-star review. Written reviews, even better. And if you want to subscribe, go to iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and of course, VGTribune.com. For me, for Justin, for Jesse, we want to thank you guys again for an awesome month of Retro Rewind, and we will see you next month. Bye-bye.